Open week is here, 22.1 has been announced, and it's a 15-minute AMRAP of 3 wall climbs, 12 alternating dumbbell snatches, and 15 box jump overs with a step down. It's a cool workout. It's a workout where pacing is absolute key. So we're gonna use our pace calculator. You'll be doing a test round to start with in your warm-up protocol that we're gonna use in order to find out what pacing per round that you're gonna go for. As you see on our figure here, that we have the number of rounds on the left, and on the right we have which time split you need to hit in order to achieve that number of rounds. That's absolute key in order to have a well-paced workout where you're hitting equal splits each round, and then you'll be able to finish strong. So rather have a little bit too conservative strategy for the majority of the workout and then really drop the hammer the last 3 minutes. Another tip for pacing is that you have 1 to 2 cues for each of the movements in the workouts that you can focus on. So rather than focusing on the suffering once you get tired, you constantly have these reminders. You have your pace round that you're going to focus on, and then you have 1 to 2 cues for the wall walks, for the dumbbell snatches, and for the box jump overs. We're going to go through some cues in a further section to show how to optimize the movement economy in the 3 movements. The next thing is transitions are key. If you're planning to get 10 plus rounds, transition will play a big factor here. If you're planning to get less, you might want to go for 3 to 5 seconds rest in between the stations in order to well pace it out. But as I said, if you want to go above the 10 rounds, transitions will play a big role here. So you really want to minimize the transition time between the 3 stations. Last tip in regards to pacing is that you want to find a rhythm. CrossFit and most sports is all about rhythm and flow, and especially for these movements where it's very rhythmic, you want to find a good flow that you can move through from start to finish and really pay attention to that so that you have this very rhythmic kind of flow throughout the workout and through each movement. Before you start the warm-up plan that we have sent out to each one of you, then I recommend that you set up everything, you measure everything, make sure to measure precise. You need to measure the wall walk standard, the line between the box and the dumbbell and the box. Make sure everything is measured out. You've tested your camera angle, you've tested the video recording, you have a clock or timer in the video, and all those things are set prior to starting the warm-up. It can take longer than you expect to tape up, to measure everything, so really make sure all of that is done prior to your warm-up. Last 2 things before you start your warm-up, you want to get your sweatbands ready. That's a piece of equipment that I recommend to avoid the hands getting too sweaty and wet so that you'll be slipping on the wall walks. And number 2 things is to make sure your laces are tied on your shoes super well. I usually put a piece of tape around to make sure they're locked in so that they don't go up, especially with these kind of movements with wall walks and burpee or box jump overs. So really make sure laces are tight and you have sweatbands on. Tips and cues for the wall walk that can help you optimize the movement economy. So the first thing is that you want to push back on your knees, round your back slightly, so not have it like an arch position. That's going to make it easier for step number 2, which is to get a big step up on the wall, followed by another big step. Once both feet are up on the wall, now the hands can start moving. So again, you'll be pushing back on your knees, rounded back, 1 big step followed by another big step. And from here, we want to move the arms straight and fast back to the first tape line. So key is really to keep them straight, to push through the shoulder blades to avoid having the arms bended and burning out the triceps. As soon as both hands have touched the line, you want to bring them forward in 3 large steps. Key is that as soon as the feet are up, hands need to start moving so that we can minimize the time under tension where the whole body is supported by the arms. All the cues put together should look like this. Tips on the dumbbell snatch. First things first, you want to make sure you have good enough momentum as you pull it off the floor so the last part of the pull is simply very easy. If it comes too slow off, it becomes too much of a press and too heavy in that section. So really make sure that there's a little bit of a dynamic pull towards midway, towards the knee height. Make sure you're alternating hands in the top, so as soon as it comes to the lockout position, you're changing hands. Next tip is to make sure to stay relaxed, to make sure to breathe. If form goes off a little bit, that's okay. Key is that blood flow can continue to flow, and that happens if we do not brace too much. So make sure to do as little as possible in order to move smooth and fast. For the elites, you can win a lot of time by moving this dumbbell very fast. So by really focusing on pulling it fast down and by optimizing the speed per repetition. If you're looking for below 10 rounds, then a more paced strategy where you don't need to force it down is definitely preferred. Tips for the box jump overs. You want to start a little bit rotated towards the box so that as you jump, you can rotate even further so that you don't need to do too big of rotations to start. So if we start slightly rotated already, jump over, it's going to make it easier to make this full rotation. The second thing is that when you jump onto the box, the foot that's going to be stepping down first needs to be on the edge so that it can kind of just slide down. That would look like this. You notice that the foot is already outside the box here, which makes it easy for me to bring it down and to then bring this one down. If I land like this, it's further to bring that foot compared to landing where the foot can almost just slide down. Last thing, breathe here. This is a station where there's no direct need for huge bracing. It's going to be hard to jump, you will be fatigued, but you can breathe on this station. For the elites, this is a station where a lot of time can be won. 15 repetitions is going to take some time, and especially with the step down technique. So really make sure that you're pushing the pace as good as you can here if you want to get above those 10 rounds. If you're going below 10 rounds, smooth, steady pacing is going to be key. That's it for a 22.1 open tip video. I hope you find it useful. Make sure to check out the warm-up in the program. Have fun, do your best, and best of luck in the first week of the open.